Good morning and welcome to the Oasis Center for Spiritual Living, where we come together as one, providing spiritual tools for daily living. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Tucker. I am the senior minister here at the Oasis, and I have this wonderful team that God has provided me that I always like to introduce. And let me start off with my faithful assistant, Faith, who has been my assistant since the day she was born, basically. I mean, she was working the soundboard with her dad at first. And then when she was able to sit up, we'd put her on the podium and she would do her announcements or my announcements with me. And then later on, as she grew up, she and her sister would do handout affirmation cards at the very end as kind of an usher thing. And thank you. And then 5 years ago, she became my assistant at my other business and with the church as soon as we started the online services. So I'm really blessed to have Faith with us. She, behind the scenes, she does it all. All I do is talk and point at a couple things. But other than that, she's the one, if you say hi, good morning, hello, she's the one that answers you. And she grew up 6 blocks from my house, and her dad used to go on out of town tows, and he would bring the girls over here and they'd hang out with me. And so she's basically been raised with me. So she knows me better than I know myself. I always check back later just to see if she covered everything. But for the most part, she's the woman behind the scenes that does it all. And she's about to be 19. So when does your birthday fall this year? Is it on a...
It's Saturday, so we'll have church the following next week.
Oh, gosh.
Next week I will be 19 when you see me next.
And so are you going to be able to be present at church on the next day, or are we having too much of a celebration on the night before?
Well, I'm planning on being here, hopefully.
Okay.
We'll see.
Present. Not just physically, but present.
Yes, I will be here.
Yeah.
And on planet Earth, I promise.
Okay. So, and she also is our soloist at the moment. And so thank you for being here. We couldn't do this without you. So thank you, dear. And then my partner in crime, the wise and powerful Oz, he's available for what we call our 1-minute miracle at the end, but he also prays us in and out. Oz and I have been together since 1998, something like that, at the Denver church. And then he's my first baby practitioner. He took all of his classes with me except for one that he took at Mile High, and was my board president for like 7 or 8 years. I don't even know. I've lost track of all the time. Anyway, he moved off to Florida at one point, so I lost him as my pulpit assistant. And so here we are back again because we have this capability with this software. But he'll be praying us in, praying us out. And like I said, he'll be available at the end for our 1-minute miracle. He's what we call our practitioner of the day. So thank you, Oz, for being here. I love you. All right. And then there's the adjunct team, the music team that I always like to acknowledge because I love doing a regular service. I don't want to be just a talking head for an hour. So we are able to do music because of 2 special ladies, Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver and Karen Drucker. And these ladies have not only given us permission to use their music, but provided us with songs and karaoke and all of that so that we can do that. So I really appreciate them. And of course, Albertina Giuffre, who sang with us since 2000 and needed a little break. And so she is now doing some other things, and we call her back for special events. But that's our adjunct music team. So I always like to acknowledge them as part of the team because they really are part of our team. All right. Today's topic is, again, we're in Back to Basics, going through the first 4 chapters of the textbook. We did what the thing itself last week. We're doing the way it works today. That's all I'm going to say for now. If you're here, please say hi, hello, good morning, however you'd like to greet us. When we're in a facility, I can look out and see who's here, but I don't have that ability with this software. So I appreciate knowing who's here. And then I also like to acknowledge that we have this watch party button. If you want to invite your friends so they can see what kind of services they can have on Sunday morning, use that watch party button and then invite all of your friends so that they can join us. And then at the, even at that point, you can like talk back and forth and you can't bother anybody. So it's a great way for them to see what kind of things they can experience when they come here on Sunday. So that being said, I'd like to invite you to close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Allow the service to uplift and inspire you as we move into our centering song.
Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. I can feel the rush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of God is in this place.
Presence of God right here, right now, for God is all there is, all that can be, encompassing all possibilities. And if God is eternal, if God is ever present, it must be right here, right now, right where you are, right where I am. And if God is all powerful, God must be all things, and therefore God must be us. Me, you, all things we encounter, all one within that greater presence that we think of as God. And since God is all that there is, I know that our service is blessed, and those blessings flow through into the week and into all time and space, here and now and in the future. I know that God is always there, always providing the perfect situation, and I give thanks that that is so, and I let it be. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. So this next song is a really good example of what we teach, that we are all one. And it is written by Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver. She is a Unity minister, but she's a licensed practitioner within religious science. So she wrote all of these songs while she was in training to become a practitioner. So I love this song because it reminds us of how connected we are. So if you know the words, sing it loud and sing it proud. And if you don't, learn them. It's a great way to remember that connection.
We are all one. We are all one. We are all one in it. I hear it and know it, my being. Spirit is all I am seeing. the love that's surrounding me is within me by day and night. And we are all one, we are all one, we are all one in it. Yes, we are all one, we are all one, we are all one in it.
We are all one in it. Excuse me. If you're here, say hi, good morning, hello, however you'd like to greet us. When we're in a facility, hi, Leslie, glad to have you aboard. When we're in a facility, I can look out and I can see who's here and see your shining faces. But with this software, I don't have that capability. And so I get a little number here that tells me how many people are in attendance. That's all I get to know. So please say hi, hello, good morning, however you'd like to greet us. That really helps me to know who's here. And if you're just stopping by later and you're watching this, just drop us a line and say hello. Let me know that you stopped by. Okay? I appreciate it. If you like something that you hear, whether that be something I say or something that Faith sings or that Oz prays, by all means, use that thumbs up button. And if you love it, send us some love. We love to have love. And if something that you hear is really powerful, please use the wow button. It lets me know if I'm on track. We love that feedback. So please provide it as you can. Let's see. Without further ado, we're going to have Faith singing a Karen Drucker song. And for the life of me, I can't remember the title. So I'm going to let you introduce it.
This is God is My Source from Songs of Spirit 1.
That's right. Okay. Here's Faith.
Thank you. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Love is my source, love is my power, love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. Joy is my source, joy is my power, joy gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Joy gives me everything I need. Peace is my source, peace is my power, peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. Peace gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power, God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source, God is my power. God gives me everything I need. And I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source, everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. Every little thing, every little thing.
Thank you. That was awesome. I'm glad to see you got your voice back. Last week she couldn't sing. So we're really glad she got her voice back. Thank you so much, Faith. Oh my goodness. All right. So we're doing back to basics this week. Well, this entire month we're doing back to basics, and we're on the second week. Last week was the thing itself, which is God. And I talked about the difference between the God that we teach and the God that other faiths have taught. And that is really simply that there is nothing outside of ourselves, that it is within us, that it is the power and presence within us. And, you know, quantum physics backs us up on that. Quantum physics says that everything in the universe is made of the same stuff, made of the same molecules. And it's the rapidity at which they bump up against each other that makes it a solid or an ethereal form. So, for instance, if it bumps up against each other really fast, we get this desk. And medium is all of us. And then if it's very slow, then it creates things like water and air and all of the atmosphere around us. And what quantum physics says is there is an intelligence that knows how to create using these molecules. Well, we in our philosophy say that that is a divine intelligence. They don't back us up on that. But I tend to think that something that has that kind of intelligence has to be something divine, right? I mean, think about what it takes for all of that. So one of the things that I love about religious science is that we believe that religion and science go together to create what we call our philosophy. And so I think that the idea of God being impartial and impersonal is one of the most important things about it. Now, some people would say, I don't like that idea, but for me, it's very comforting. I'll tell you a little story. I was raised Orthodox Jewish, and I would sit there as a young girl and listen to them talk about Adam and Eve and why women are unclean, and how they didn't really come out and say it exactly that way, but basically that God preferred men over women. And so I always thought growing up as a woman was going to be a very unpleasant thing. And it made me really doubt that that God would feel that way, that God would prefer one over the other. Now, it's really funny because in the Jewish faith, they say, question everything except certain things. So I really kind of have a bond with Dr. Ernest Holmes because he was getting thrown out of Christian churches. I was getting thrown out of Hebrew school because I kept saying, how could we possibly have a God that would prefer one person over another? Well, when we make God into our image and likeness, creating a person instead of a divine intelligence, when we do that, people have preferences, right? And what is comforting to me is to know that no matter what color you are, no matter what your orientation is, no matter, whether you're male or female, no matter, none of that matters, that God loves us all the same and doesn't have any preferences. So when people use the he or the she for God, I always say, no, it's an it. It needs to be an it because it needs to be impartial and impersonal. It needs to not have preferences for me to feel comfortable. Let's put it that way. I'm sure there are other people out there that would feel more comfortable the other way, but I feel more comfortable knowing that God has no preferences. And that even though in the Jewish faith, for instance, even though women are the bloodline, and so everything comes through us, That's the only credit we really get. I used to live across the street from our rabbi. And every Friday before sundown, there would they go trekking down the street, walking to the synagogue. And it would be the rabbi first, and then his wife, and then the kids. And I just looked at that kind of like, oh my gosh, she has to walk behind him. And it's not that we're not valued. But for instance, when there is a service, for example, the women are put in a separate room. And they're not allowed up on the podium. When my dad died, first of all, the rabbi was like, well, you don't want to speak at his funeral. And I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And he finally let me speak, which was interesting because I did a good job. And he was like, oh, you did such a good job. Well, I was in the school ministry, you know. But when we got to the graveside, one of the things that they finish at the graveside is then they have people put a shovel full of dirt on the grave. And all of my brothers, I have 5 brothers, all of my brothers took turns doing that. And then they handed me the shovel and the rabbi's like, oh, no, you can't do that. You'll desecrate the grave. And my brothers are like, yeah, she can. And so I put a shovel full of dirt on there. But that's kind of what goes along with that whole preference thing is that somehow women are unclean because we were the first ones to take the bite of the apple. And then we coerced Adam into taking a bite of the apple. And so now we suffer with cramps and difficult childbirth, you know, painful childbirth and that kind of thing. It's not enough to suffer that way. We also have to suffer as basically being like second-class citizens in most religions. And so when I say God is impartial and impersonal, that's what I mean. I like that idea. It's comforting to me. It's comforting to me to know that God doesn't love any one of us more than the other. And so the way this works, the last week, when I talked about the thing itself, I basically talked about love and law, but the way it works is love and law. I remember spiritual, so that's the love. Spiritual laws are just like physical laws. There are spiritual laws in the universe, just like there are physical laws. Gravity is one. It's impartial in that way because gravity works whether you're anywhere on the planet, no matter who you are, unless you're up in outer space, obviously. And then there's something else that guides that. But I'm just saying, like, that's one of the physical laws. Another thing is like electricity. Now, we take for granted that we have electricity in our houses. My mother was from Knoxville, Tennessee. And when I was 18, I became very good friends with the lady who cleaned the apartments after people left. And she invited me to go to Tennessee with her family. Now, we weren't in Knoxville. We were in Jellicoe, which sits halfway in Kentucky and halfway in Tennessee. So you're walking down the street, and this side is Kentucky, and this side is Tennessee. And so, but we were up in the hills above there. And there was this lady that we were staying with, this beautiful lady, God bless her. She had breast cancer and had a breast removed. So she was forever showing me her scar. She was very proud of her scar. I'm not sure why. But the other thing that she did is they had just had electricity put in their house. And she would go over and like 15 times a day, she'd do this. You turn it on over here and you walk over here and you turn it off. It was really cute. And, but I started thinking about, you know, the longest I've ever been without electricity is like 12 hours. And I barely made it through those 12 hours. There's not a lot you can do. You can read books if you can find light. Usually it's at night, so there's not much reading that goes on. There's no TV. There's no radio, you know. Nowadays you have at least your cell phone. But I can't imagine not ever having electricity and then having it all of a sudden one day. Well, my point is that it works the same for her as it does for me. Even though I tell Google to turn things on, Oz tells Alexa to turn things on. But this lady actually had never had that before. And it worked just as well for her as it does for Oz and I. And so that's the impartiality of it all. And it's impersonal because it has no preferences. God loves you the same as everyone else, and you can never do anything to lose that love. And that's the way it works. True unconditional love we seek in relationships is actually seeking God's unconditional love, because no one on earth can give us that love. I've talked a couple of times about Dr. Fred Vogt and my ministerial craftsmanship class. And he would he would say, there is no such thing as unconditional love, and then listen to us argue with him about it. And, I reached a point at which I kind of understand his point, but if you practice, in other words, you try to exercise unconditional love, you can. But I do believe that the unconditional love of God flows through us. So I had this lady in my congregation one time. She was on the board of, I think it was a condo organization, HMO, whatever. And she was, she had to work with this lady on the board who was difficult. And she kept saying, I'm trying to love her. I'm trying to love her. You always say you have to love everyone. I'm trying to love her. And finally, one day, I don't know, I think I had it as an aha when I was in my meditation and then told her, I think of God's love as flowing through us. Like I get an image of a funnel above my head, and God's love pours through me like this. And then there's another funnel that comes out from my heart towards other people. And so it's not that you and I need to love people. It's that we need to open that heart space, that channel through which God's love can pour, because God's going to love that person for us, through us, you see. And that's what unconditional love really is. And so when I told her that, she said, oh, I can do that. That's easy. And they ended up having this great working relationship because she was able to do that. And so that's how I kind of see the love part of God. And the law part of God is there are several spiritual laws. The most common ones are the law of assumption, which I love, by the way. It assumes that it is the truth. Now, there are people on TikTok who are abusing that. Let's put it that way. They don't understand it. They use it as a way of manipulating other people. In other words, if I assume it's true, and it doesn't matter what the other person's feelings are. Well, one of the things that I love about the way we teach it is that we have free will. God's not going to rescue us. There's no 911 for God. Hey, I'm having a problem here. Can you come down? Sure, I'll put my shoes on. I'll be right down. That's not going to happen because God lives within us. And so it is through us that things get solved. It is through us that things get better. And so when I think about the law of assumption being, if I assume it, if I know that it's true, then eventually you'll come back to me is kind of how it's being taught. And I don't like that. We all have free will. That other person has free will. And just because I assume it is so doesn't mean it's going to happen when it involves another person. You'll always hear me talk about, when I pray for someone, I always get their permission. I don't just assume that it's okay to pray for them. And part of that is about knowing my spiritual boundaries, knowing that it's none of my spiritual business the path you're on. When you reach out and you ask me for help, that's a whole different story. But I don't just go around going, oh, I'm going to pray for that person because I can, right? Because we have free will. And so when I assume something in the law of assumption, I assume that I am feeling loved. I assume that I'm in the perfect relationship. I assume that my love is reciprocated. I do not assume that it is happening with a specific individual because they have free will. But the law of assumption is just that I assume that is the truth about the situation, my situation, not the other person's, right? The law of cause and effect, which we're all familiar with, a lot of people call it karma, being that we set in motion those things that we think about, right? And not just one thought. It's not like every thought is creative. We have something like 400 thoughts a minute. Thank God every thought is not creative. Like, can you imagine? I want that. No, I don't. Yes, I do. No, I don't. our world would be so unreliable that we wouldn't be able to exist. So I'm really glad that it's the preponderance of our thought that is creative. And so the law of cause and effect says, if I think about something a lot, I set it in motion. I like to say, I love psychics. Don't get me wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with psychics. But what I see psychics as is their ability to be able to see what we've already created in the mind of God. So I've set a thought in motion, and it's like throwing a ball at a window. You know it's going to hit the window and break it unless you reach up and intercept it, correct? So the way psychics work is they are able to see into that path that you have created through the mind of God, where you have already created it and haven't seen it in physical reality yet. So when I go to a psychic, I go for a very different reason than most people. Because I know that whatever prediction they give me, I have to keep going back to them, because every thought or every minute I have a new thought. And so I am forever changing that path, because I can change my mind at any moment. And so rather than look at future and say what's going to happen, I say what's in the way of my good. And I have a very good reader who just is awesome, because she is able to tell me what's my obstacle here. She's really good at that. But the idea is that we have to understand that we have that free will. And so we can't know that for someone else unless they have opened the pathway. In other words, they have asked for prayer. So not that I don't do general prayers for like peace or something like that for a nation. But when it comes down to individual, like I see something happening with somebody, I don't just go in there and start praying, because it's none of my spiritual business. What is my spiritual business is to know the highest and best for them, period. And if that means that they need to stub their toe, then I'm going to let them stub their toe. That is the free will, the unconditional love of God in action, right? So when we talk about the law of cause and effect, we are basically saying what we focus our attention on, we create more of. That's exactly what Dr. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said. What we focus our attention on, the preponderance of our thought, creates a new reality. And so I would much rather personally have a good reality than one that's not so comfortable, right? So I work on my thoughts to try and make them as pure as possible. Nobody's 100%. I'm a human doing here on the planet. You know, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. And so I fall down just like everybody else, but I find myself able to pull up my bootstrings and move on a lot quicker these days. But the thing is if I focus my attention on things I don't like, I'm going to create more of what I don't like. And if I focus my attention on those things that I do want to see, then I find that they manifest very easily now, because I keep the preponderance of my thought there. The other spiritual law that is really, really important, that I think, there's a lot of spiritual laws, but these three are the top, and they're the most common, what most people understand about spiritual laws, is the law of circulation. And that is setting in motion, because giving and receiving are exactly the same thing. It's an unbroken unity, and it's a circular motion. And so when I give, I activate that law of circulation to receive. Now, does it mean I get tit for tat? No. Does it mean that if I give 10% of my income to the church, then I'm going to get that 10% back? No, it doesn't mean that. What it means is that I activate the pathway for my good to come to me through my act of giving. And so I always like to do this little exercise, real quick exercise about the law of circulation. So with me, take a nice deep breath, hold it. Take another nice deep breath, hold it. Don't let any of it out. Take some more breath in, let go. Obviously, we have to let go of that breath in order to take more breath in. That is the way of the universe. That is the law of circulation in motion. That is a physical experience of how the law of circulation works. So when we're tightly holding on to our money, that's what's happening. So those three spiritual laws are very prominent in our teaching. And also, they give us a really good guideline for how to live our lives, right? So if I am giving and receiving, and if I am focusing my attention on those thoughts that are going to create a better life for me, and I understand that we have free will and that I can assume a truth for myself without involving another person, if I follow those three laws just by themselves, my life will get better. That's the way it works, right? Dr. Ernest Holmes, taught about spiritual law mostly because first he was introduced to Ralph Waldo Emerson, who was a transcendentalist, and loved the idea of the oversoul. That was just really cool to him, that there was this oversoul that guided and led the other godheads, so to speak. And he loved that idea, and it just charged him up. And then he ran into the works of Judge Thomas Troward, who was a Christian judge in India, who realized that if he was going to pass judgment on someone, he really needed to understand their culture and why they did the things that they did. So he started studying their religion, and what he found was that Christianity and Hinduism had something very much in common. And it was the spiritual laws of how things work, right? So he started, and he was beloved by the people, by the way, because he did that, because they understood that he was trying to come up with the best judgment for them based on what they believed and what their culture was. And so he wrote these books, and Dr. Ernest Holmes found his works and went, "Oh my God, this is great." And he ran around all over the country teaching that, lecturing. And he had pretty big crowds for the time period that it was, like 1927. He was out there talking about this stuff, and people would come from all around and listen to him. And so he focused most of his attention on the spiritual laws. There is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. I like to change that to you can consciously use it, because we do use it. It's not that we can use it. It is that we do use it, but we can use it consciously. But that's one of the spiritual principles that Troward taught that Dr. Ernest Holmes picked up. And so through all of this, he ran into a woman named Emma Curtis Hopkins, who had studied with Mary Baker Eddy, and they'd had a falling out. And instead of sticking with Christian Science, she went off on her own and created a school of mysticism. But it was basically focused on the idea that you were courting God, that you were contemplating or courting a relationship with that powerful Spirit of God. And that's where the love comes in. When you recognize that everything we're doing when we do visioning, when we do meditation, when we do prayer, what we're basically doing is we're courting that relationship with that more powerful part of ourselves, that infinite power, that infinite presence that lives within us. That is the truth about what our exact experience is. That we have this inner being that has a much greater idea of life than we do. We see this much. We only see this much. I'm going to put up our teaching symbol real quick and go over it again. I know I did this last week, and I'll probably do it again next week. But it's a great way to get a visual representation of the process of creation. So here we have our teaching symbol, and I went over the way it works in God last week. So today I'm going to talk about the individual. There's this unbroken unity, that circle with no end, that is the truth about life, that you and I are connected by it, through it, and there is no place where one leaves off and the other begins. And so this is that unbroken circle of life that we all have within us. And even though we can't part out God, we've had to, in order to explain this, and in order for there to be a common place where we can come together to understand what we're talking about, we have separated it into three parts. The top part is conscious mind. And when I was talking about, having these ideas and having them come to fruition, that's where this lives. So in my foundations class, for example, we think about something we want to create. And then that middle portion is what I like to refer to is like a computer. because it records everything that you've ever thought about, everything you've ever experienced, and how you feel about it. And that is the powerful place of creation. So I have them use Play-Doh to signify that. And then the third part, the bottom part of it, is form, physical form. So they use the Play-Doh and they create the idea that they had in the conscious mind, right? So that V, as you notice, passes from conscious mind through subjective mind down into form, and then returns back to the nothingness from which it came, which, if you really think about it, is the process of growing a flower, right? We have a seed, we plant it in the soil, it comes out above ground, and then when the season changes, it returns back to the nothingness from which it came. Well, our creative life works exactly the same way. So the way this all works is I have a conscious thought about what I would like to see in my life, and it goes in through that middle portion, the subjective mind. Well, what happens in the subjective mind if, say, for example, at the top of this, I'm saying, I am so loved, I am powerfully loved, everything in my life is love. And in the subjective mind, all of a sudden you have this, oh no, you remember that person that did this to you? So no, you don't deserve to be loved. What happens to that thought? It goes back to the nothingness from which it came, before actually hitting the bottom, before actually making it into physical reality, right? That's the way the subjective mind works. That's why we spend so much time talking about our belief systems and how to change our thinking so that we can change our lives to be a more powerful, a more beautiful experience, right? The other thing that happens without our knowledge is that subjective mind is like the autopilot of our life, right? When you first learned how to drive, for example, when you were first learning, you had to remember, put your foot on the brake, put your foot on the gas, look in the mirror, look behind you, you know, do all of these things, turn the wheel. You had to really think about all of those things. And eventually, and my husband always hates it when I say this, when we're born, our brain is smooth like a cue ball. He hates that reference, but when we're born, that's what our brain is like. It's very smooth. And through repetition, the grooves are put into the brain to allow the synapses to fire quicker and easier so that we no longer have to think about those things. Now those things have become automatic. And that's a good thing and a not so good thing sometimes. It's a good thing when you're learning how to drive because you want to be able to focus on what's happening outside of the car and where you're headed instead of focusing on where your feet are and your eyes have to be shifting around all the time, right? So the automatic placement is a good thing in that case. Where it is not so good is that we have a lot of automatic stuff happening in our subjective mind that is creating without our consent, so to speak, our conscious consent. Things like the last relationship was bad. Okay. So now we draw to us all these people that are going to keep us having the same experience over and over and over again until we heal that part of that subjective mind, right? Or perhaps it's about money. Perhaps I'm focused on $10,000 a month income. In the middle portion, my parents never made more than $10,000 or made more than like $5,000 a month, right? So that's impossible is what comes up, right? Or in the automatic sense, it's like, well, you can't have X amount of dollars, so I'm going to keep you in poverty. And that's what your physical experience is. And so we never even enter the arena of that conscious mind. The V begins its subjective mind, bounces into, flows down into the physical form, and then bounces right back out, and it never even touches the conscious mind. Now, not all of those creations are bad creations. Some of them are excellent creations. But it's important that we recognize that they are done without our awareness. So the focus on the way it works is to understand that this is the process. And if we're understanding that this is the process, then we want to keep our thoughts focused on what we want to create while at the same time working on those beliefs that are hiding in that subjective mind, while we're working on the thoughts that come up to sabotage whatever vision we have for our life, right? And so the way it works is through unconditional love, being that channel through which God's love touches the world, and through understanding the spiritual laws of the universe, recognizing how that works within our own lives, making changes for the better, taking responsibility for everything that's in our life, right? Please understand, I'm not talking about blame. Blame is like this. Oh God, I created this. What am I going to do? I can't get it. I'm just stuck here. And responsibility is, I created this so I can uncreate it. Okay? You see that more powerful stance that we take when we're thinking those thoughts versus, oh, look what I created. I can't do anything about it, right? It's important for us to recognize that we have free will and that our process here on the earth, that I believe our process here on the earth, let's put it that way, is to work through all of that stuff, to create a better life, to create heaven on earth, here and now. Will you do that with me this week? Will you focus your attention on what you would like to create, at the same time beginning to work on those beliefs that are limiting the experience that you have? Let's have a prayer. Right now, I just turn my awareness to the infinite power, the infinite presence, the infinite life of God. To that place within me that knows beyond human understanding just how powerful God is, how beautiful He is, how loving. For there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. God is simply all there ever has been, all there ever will be, and all there is here and now. And so that's where I find myself, in the midst of God, my very essence, my very life, my very being. It is who and what I am. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that ancient wisdom of the ages that flows through me as it flows through all. I know that same truth to be so for the team that God has provided me. For Lynn and for Faith and for Tina and for Elaine and for Karen and for Oz. Because I know we are connected by it through it. That we are human doings with spirit running through us to accomplish that which must be done by us. As so, we are all one. And every thought, every action, every deed is guided and led by that same ancient wisdom of the ages that lives itself through us. So I know that same truth to be so for anyone watching, either in real time or later on. Because there is no place where one leaves off and the other begins. There is only one. Mitakuios and all my brethren, we are all connected. We are all related. So this week, I bless this week knowing that every experience that we have this coming week is one of beauty and progress. And we just allow ourselves to open as that unconditional agent of God to provide love or to let the love flow through us to others. We focus our attention on the world that we would like to see. Claim it as is, as ours. In the meantime, we work on those thoughts and beliefs that may interfere with that coming to fruition. I bless this week with all that, knowing that it is our path and it is a good path and it is a powerful path and it is a peaceful path. I know that same truth to be so for every name that is in the ministry of prayer today. Because I do know that whatever condition they are experiencing, God is the absolute truth behind it, underneath it, supporting the love, the life, the power, the abundance, the prosperity, the health. So I pull back the veil right now and reveal that truth here in the situation. whatever that situation is. I pull back the veil, reveal it as truth, claim it in their name as good and very good. And I give thanks for it, to know that it is so. To be of service in this way. And I just let it be. And so it is. Amen. Oh, back to reality. I swear, Faith, we need to do a second song right here. Just so I could come. Like, it's hard for me to come back and like even talk. All right. So this is our opportunity to receive your gifts, tithes, and offerings, and your opportunity to express your gratitude for that which you have seen in the physical realm, and that which you have created in the mind of God you may not have actually seen in the physical reality yet. It's on its way, I promise. But this is your opportunity to give thanks for that. And so in a minute, I'm going to ask you to join me at www.oasiscsl.org. And about 2/3 down the page is an offering affirmation that I'm going to have you say with me. And then there's a contribute now button underneath it. And let me talk to you a little bit about contribution, because we don't have a facility, so you're not paying for that, or the utilities or any of those normal expenses that you would. What you're contributing to is our vision, our mission. We want the world to be healed. We see the world as healed, let's put it that way. And our mission to get there is by healing the world one person at a time. And that global reality has already begun. We have people tuning in from the UK, from Germany, and from the Netherlands, Holland. Mainly because they're English speaking, so it's easier. But I really do know that we can attract everyone, and it doesn't really matter what country they come from. But in order to do that, we have to do some marketing. And so that's what you're contributing to. You're contributing to that mission and vision. And it is a powerful thing to join hands with everyone to create a better world, to create a world where everyone is healed, right? So anyway, that's what you're contributing to. So right now, it doesn't matter if you're here or if you're coming back later and viewing this, you can do this with us. Go right now to www.oasiscsl.org. And about 2/3 down the page, say this offering affirmation with me right now. This perfect gift is spirit and form, circulating and blessing all it touches. Freely I give and joyously I receive. And so it is. All right. So hit that contribute now button and let's get together and make changes in the world. Okay. All right. So announcements. We have this wonderful team of licensed practitioners from coast to coast. I love saying that. Who serve our God Squad. We have Celeste, who is in Minnesota. We have Annie in Long Beach, California. We have Oz in Florida, and we have Tina here in Denver. And so they are this wonderful team of licensed practitioners that do all kinds of things. But one of the things that they do is they offer themselves for spiritual guidance sessions. And you can book a session with them for spiritual guidance by contacting them, letting them know that you would like a session. They'll reach out to you and let you know how to pay for it. That may be Cash App, maybe Venmo, might be Wise, might be PayPal. I don't get involved in that. They have their own separate business. So, but you'll set up an appointment and they will reach out to you by video chat at your appointed time for spiritual guidance. Now, we also have this wonderful team praying every day for a week on any prayer requests that you have. So if you would like prayer for something, please put it in the comment section. If you don't want it to be public, message Faith and she'll make sure that it makes it to the private facing group page that we have on Facebook for the God Squad. And if you would like to be part of our online community, type more. And that way you're going to get information before the rest of the world gets it about what we're doing, the classes and that kind of thing. Speaking of classes, we still don't have that set up. Faith, you and I kind of need to work on that. I'm going to try and make it go through Venmo, but we need to set up another Venmo account because PayPal, we don't get all of it. And so I will get working on that, but save the date for the first Thursday of February. Okay. The class is going to be from 6 to 10. It is going to be $300. It's a 10-week class. What we're going to do is we're going to offer you to pay $30 a week until the halfway point, and then you need to pay the other $150. And then by the fifth class, you will know whether you like this class or not. And if you've taken it before, there's a $30 review fee, and that's only because we have to pay home office for that. The organization, whatever. They don't call themselves home office anymore. They call themselves home office when I worked there. Now they call themselves something else. I don't know. Anyway. But we will be offering the class if you are interested in learning deeper what we're talking about with Back to Basics here. Definitely tune in for that. February 2nd. Thank you, Faith. February 2nd is the date that it will start from 6 to 10 Mountain Time. Or 7 to 10. I'm sorry. 7 to 10 Mountain Time. I don't know what I'm thinking. And I'm willing to offer, for those of you in Europe, I know you are 8 hours ahead, so I'm willing to offer that also Thursday morning. So just send me a little note, like a private message here, and just let me know that you would like to take a class. I need to know if we have anybody interested, for one thing, and for another thing, I need to know where you're coming from so I know how to adjust the time period. So 7 to 10 Mountain Time this Thursday, not this Thursday, Thursday, February 2nd, starting for 10 weeks. All right. Let's do Brooks and Bailey real quick here. These mala beads that I have on are amethyst mala beads. There's 108 in this necklace, which is great for Hindus and Buddhists who do mantras, and they just take one bead at a time and move it. Brooks and Bailey has starting with like $30 on up, depending on what gemstone you like. I happen to like amethyst. Haha, funny. I'm purple. But they have them from $30 and up. And so here is their information. You can contact them through brooksandbailey0307@gmail.com. They do have a Facebook page. I do try to share any events that they're going to be at selling their goods. All proceeds go to Rocky Mountain Lab Rescue. It's a very worthy cause. So definitely check them out. The bracelets have like 52, I believe, or 54 beads. And so you can use them twice a day to do your affirmations, but whatever. Okay. All right. Faith.
And please check out my metaphysical shop. The website no longer works, but you can order through Instagram and Facebook just by messaging us, and we can go from there. But we are at the Mystic Brew 303. So please check us out. Prices are on Facebook. And follow us for any upcoming events or deals that may be happening soon. I do start classes next week, so fingers crossed once I see my caseload. We are hoping to expand a little bit here at the Mystic Brew for 2023. So definitely follow us so that you can get updates once we have that all together.
We are so proud of Faith. She works full time. She's going to school full time and finds time to party. I can't even understand that, but whatever. As an adjunct to Faith's metaphysical store, we also have Angel Renee, who has an Etsy store. She has intention candles and a tea bag that you can put in your bath with all these aromatic herbs that help keep you focused on your intention. So check her out. All of that information is in the comments, I believe. Then check out also Reverend Fairy Elaine Silver's website. She can't change her website for some reason, so she can't put how to pay on there. She travels the United States and singing, and she always has her CDs in the back of her car. So let her know. Go to the website, see what you want. Let her know that you want to buy something. She'll tell you how to pay, and then she will send it to you. And she's really good about making sure you get it. And then also Karen Drucker, whose website does work. And on her website, you can buy it by the song, by the CD, by the songbook. She has some Sure. The sign language, English, American Sign Language files. And she has karaoke files. So, and you can buy whatever anytime because her website does work and there is a payment portal there. So check that out. Also check out our website at oasiscsl.org. You're going to find sermons, the video sermons from the last 2 years and audio sermons from years prior. We are also on YouTube and SoundCloud under S. Tucker. On YouTube, you get the video sermons, and on SoundCloud, you get the audio sermons. So check out those things and let us know what's happening in the world here. You like that, Oz, huh? That's funny. Okay. So let's see. I think that's it. I'm going to take us into our closing song, and then Oz will pray us out.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
We end the service and start the week knowing that we are swimming in a sea of God. It is all around us. It is in us. It breathes us. It pumps our heart. It spins the stars and all things in between. And I know that the blessings that are manifesting for each of us here and now continue into this week and into the future. And I know that the blessings unflow ceaselessly. And I know this is good and very good. And I give thanks that it is so. And so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Oz. All right. Thank you for being here. There's 1,000 things you could be doing on a Sunday morning. We're blessed to have you with us. Tune in next week at 10:30 a.m. Mountain Time, where we continue our series, the way it works, what it does, how it is, how to use it. Isn't it? I don't know. I can't remember. Do you remember what it does? Next week is what it does. Oh my gosh. I don't know. I can't hold a thought in my head for some reason. Maybe all those thoughts that are running through. All right. So join us next week for what it does, back to basics. And in the meantime, we love you. Stay safe. Wear a mask. And thank you for being here. Bye.